you might see opportunities for support that you're unable to manage at the moment?
Well, it's been quite limited from a personal perspective, but where I think they can add value, we've talked about finances already, is where they can think about the community-based services. So it's not going into hospital, it's an opportunity to just innovate, continue the transformation work that we have been doing, and for them to focus on that at a reduced cost. And I think that's where the greatest opportunities, I think, will be. If there's an opportunity for patients to be seen, treated in the community without having to go into hospital, I think that's going to be good. I know Patrick might be concerned about that in terms of lost income, but I'm trying to think about the overall demands that we have. And I think Sue already mentioned about, further waves will get inundated. So I think that's where they could give the greatest assistance. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, the communities. Sue, I suppose coming back to you on that bit around seeking support and getting more patients into community settings, do you see a place for support around pathway redesign and sort of that general area?
Yeah, I think there's a risk that the easy stuff will be cherry picked off, and that's always been what NHS England have done. They take the easy stuff and give it to the private sector, leaving us all the complex stuff. But I think going forward, we're going to have to work smarter and help from the industry to work out which parts on this pathway could be changed to get better results. Is it using different kinds of staff? Is it better empowering patients? Is it patient education? Is it group consultations? Is it, webinars of giving advice? I think there's a lot that can be done, and there's a lot of technology out there, and NHS always lags behind that. So there's all sorts of things you can do with apps that we don't do at the moment. So I think there's a lot that can be done, and for each kind of system of the body, diabetes, respiratory, musculoskeletal, there's a different host of things that could be improved. And I think both communities and community trusts and GPs are going to need a hell of a lot of help. So now is the time to step forward and say, what do you need? And ask us what our fears are, and then facilitate us thinking through a potential solution, and just be with us on it. You don't have to have the solutions, but just be willing to help us think it through, plan it, work out how we're going to do it. How do we troll through patient notes and find the right people? How do we call them in? How do we track who's come in and who hasn't? I think the NHS needs more help than perhaps the industry realises. Perhaps there's an assumption that we can do things that we can't do.
Thank you. Hilary, have you got anything to add to Sue's comments there?
I just wanted to reiterate that actually, particularly I think there is an opportunity for pathway redesign, because the way cares can be delivered is being thrown on its head, and what we considered had to be done in a certain way is being changed. Those thoughts, it's being changed completely. And I think the role of things like diagnostics, how do you provide care safely in a patient's home, what tests can they do, etc. And I think there's a real opportunity use of technology, and Sue's right, we don't have that, and enabling us to see that there are opportunities. And I think I see certainly GP practice as a much more open to different ways of working now. And what we try to, certainly thinking about a clinical support unit for our practices led by pharmacy technicians, that was raised in February. It was poo-pooed because, oh no, pharmacy technicians have to be within our practice, not remotely, not centrally. Went through last week's board meeting because everybody realises actually the last thing we want is more people in the practice, but having a remote centralised unit will be perfect.
Yeah, thank you. And Patrick, to you on that as well, where would you value support, or would you value support, and where from external industry partners?
No, I'd just echo everything that's been said, and actually especially the point Cameron made, that the challenge for acute hospitals now is, I think we almost have to prove, is it worth coming to see us? Is it worth being in an acute setting? And if it's not, we should be doing it somewhere else. And we shouldn't be saying, oh, the best healthcare is secondary acute care. Oh, I mean, it always will be, of course. But you know, we actually should be turning that on its head and going,
steady.
What is the need to be in hospital, rather than, oh, I've got a serious illness because I'm off to the Marsden. Actually, why? You know, could we remotely monitor blood counts from home for chemotherapy, rather than, you know, oh, how do we get this result every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, every 6 weeks, or whatever? That's where we need the help. As Sue said, or paraphrasing a part of what Sue said, you know, we need a lot of help that perhaps industry don't recognise, but particularly we need it in monitoring and recording. You know, we may be very good at setting up virtual clinics and whatever. We're rubbish at actually recording who came, who saw who, for who, how long.